Hey guys, Dragon Ball for Life here today, and I'm back with another video. Now, in today's video, we're going to be reacting to Death Battles Deku versus Asta. Now, I was actually really looking forward to this one. I think this one's interesting, matchup. They've had quite a bit of, Death Battles, and there are a few of the recent ones I haven't really cared too much about. Most of them, some of them I did care about, but this one I think I care the most about because I do know more about Deku and Asta. Though I think Asta would definitely win this fight, and I think maybe of that stuff they're using the manga, and maybe I haven't really read that far into the My Hero Academia manga. I kind of quit on My Hero Academia as a whole, for the manga and the anime side. I just felt like it was going down a lot in quality, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us feel that way. So I don't know what transpired in the future. I know he was getting newer powers unlocked. He already had that Black Whip unlocked. That was the most recent thing that I remember. But I think he had like 7 or 8 other powers. So who knows? That might give him a bigger advantage. But I don't see him beating somebody like Asta, who's way too powerful. Even without the fact that Deku doesn't use magic and his magical anti-magic weapons don't stop his magic. It still will hurt him. And the amount of power he gains from this anti-magic power up is insane, especially in the manga later on. Which also I didn't catch up, not because I quit on this. It's just that I want to wait until it wraps up and stuff so I can read it all as a whole. But he got this devil form, and he's got a power up, so he's probably a lot more stronger. Sorry if I sound congested and nasally and my nose and stuff. I'm not even sick. It's just my nose feels stuffed right now, so I don't know why. But yeah, this video, I don't know what will happen to it because I've had a couple of my other videos where I did, reactions, and it never showed up because it was completely blocked, and I cut out as much as I possibly could. I cut out like half of what I had last time, and they still blocked me to the point where I cut out and I only had 10% of it, and they were still blocking me. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna, delete it because nobody could watch it. So I might not be able to even get this out. I'm probably talking to myself right now and not anybody else. Sometimes it lets it go through, which hopefully that's the case in this one because I really want it to be out, but if not, then this was pretty much pointless, so whatever. Let's get into it.
For All allows Deku to release absolutely absurd amounts of strength from different parts of his body, with super moves named after US cities and states.
Deku still can't access all of his power safely though. Using 100% will quickly destroy his body, which is why he learned to distribute his strength evenly across his body, a technique known as full cowling. This lets him increase his speed and durability as well, making him more all-rounded, and shifting focus to his own interpretation of One For All inspired by his pal Ida, shoot style,
where he pulls out a Glock and blows your brains out! Okay, not really, but in keeping with One For All's rabbit theme, he trades All Might's signature punches for kicks. My version's better. You ever seen Rabbit vs. Gun? I have, and I know how it plays out.
Considering the much higher muscle mass of a human's legs, shoot style allowed Deku to output even more power while giving his arms a break. A break from a break.
And despite being a classic melee build, Deku can fight at range by punching powerful gusts of air, and even precisely aim them with specially designed gloves.
Deku has an encyclopedic knowledge of quirks, and is always analyzing their strengths and weaknesses mid-battle, even if he does sound a little weird.
Despite only barely getting accepted in the first place, Deku quickly became one of Class 1A's most dependable fighters.
Only thing he could do. Turns out, One For All did not originate with All Might. It had been passed down 8 times until it arrived at Deku, with each inheritance also carrying the previous user's natural quirk as well.
Like Black Whip, which lets him manifest crazy long and strong energy tendrils to tie enemies up and swing around the city, or shoot one out of his mouth, just like our girl Fruppy.
And Danger Sense, which gives him a minor reactive precognition.
AKA, he's Spider-Man! Not even a reach, the mangaka is like the biggest Spidey fan ever.
He can also produce a smoke screen to mask his presence, float in midair, or
I will be cutting out a lot of parts because like I said, in these videos, I'm specifically mainly focusing on the power, who is stronger, and their battle power stuff. Especially since I do know quite a bit about Deku and Asta. Like I said, even though I quit quite a while back for My Hero Academia, I still know quite a bit enough. So I'm gonna be skipping those parts if you guys are wondering why some parts are missing, because I don't really care about them. For right now, for some reason, they seem like the explanation for Deku, maybe they're building up a little bit more, but it seems like they're spending a lot more time on specifically, his backstory than actually what he can accomplish in his feats. And I know they're getting a little more into it by explaining the other powers and abilities he can use, but I think they're focusing a little too much on the story. I want to get more about, the power up, because let's be honest, that's what we're really here for, is how strong these characters are and who could win in the fight.
Store kinetic energy over time with Bajin.
Like that. By storing up enough, he can even match All Might's max power without any recoil to boot. Strong enough to change the weather and create city block-sized tornadoes with a single punch.
And he's even stronger with his newest quirk, Gear Shift, which allows him to increase the speed of an object anytime he touches it. In conjunction with the power of All for One, he can use this to warp reality itself. Deku can go toe-to-toe with arch-villains like Shigaraki, who's fast enough to react to and catch laser beams with his bare hands.
But nothing could prepare him for All Might's archenemy, the shadowy leader of the League of Villains, All for One.
All Might only ever showed his young pupil kindness and support, but that couldn't change the absolutely crushing pressure Deku felt at every moment.
Even classically trained dickhead Bakugo came to help his teammate out when he needed it. Like when they teamed up to share One for All and punch an island-sized hole in the clouds 24 miles high.
Just goes to show that even One for All isn't a one-man army. Deku's true strength comes from his teamwork between himself and his friends.
And with their help, Deku will...
Okay, let's go through this. For that one, that was from their movie. I think that was their second movie that they had. I really liked that movie, but that I don't think those movies are considered canon, so him sharing it with him, I don't think that was a really canon part. But them mentioning the fact that he works with a team, that's the thing. When a lot of people are talking about, like, mangas, why don't they just work as a team or jump a guy? Because then it makes the character a lot weaker. If we were doing these type of battle stuff, then if you, let's say a character does have a team up stuff or beat up one big villain jumping them, it'll make them a lot weaker than if they were to, let's say, fight individually and get stronger and then fight them that way. And for like these death battles and for power scaling in general, those characters that work together a lot are usually weaker than the characters that don't work as a team and fight solo. So he's going to definitely be the weaker out of them, because Asta, even though he works as a team, most of the times he ends up in fights one-on-one and doesn't rely on a teamwork as much as Deku. So the more that a character in fiction relies on teamwork, that have power, the weaker that they're going to be, because they need others to help them out. The more that they don't rely on others and do it on their own, or even if they have a team, they still do it mostly on their own, they are going to usually, if not always, be the stronger character.
Surely become that beacon of hope he dreamt about as a child.
One hero for all mankind.
Everyone's got it.
Mana is the source of all magic, a supernatural energy found in the air and in living beings. Except living beings whose names are Asta.
Not only was the young Asta an orphan abandoned by his mother at a church as a baby, he was born with a mutation that prevents him from having any mana to speak of. So he dedicated himself to getting swole as all hell. In a world of nerds, he would be its lone jock god, shoving every last wizard into a locker until they crowned him king. Five-leaf clover can harness the power of anti-magic, which will literally nullify the effects of other magic spells, almost like wizard kryptonite. Let the locker stuffing commence! Haha, get nerds!
It wasn't long before Asta was accepted into one of the 9 squads of Clover Kingdom's Magic Knights, the Black Bulls, filled with lazy drunkards, antisocial otakus, and literal sociopaths.
My kind of people! Mostly. But much like with Asta, you shouldn't judge a grimoire by its cover. And soon they were all working together and kicking ass like a family should.
Asta harnesses the power of anti-magic by summoning swords imbued with it from the grimoire. Normally, these swords would quickly drain the mana from anyone foolish enough to wield them, but Asta does not have any mana, turning his greatest weakness into a one-of-a-kind strength.
Okay, they're doing quite a bit of story in this one, but they're explaining also a little bit about his power. But I still feel like it's pointless to explain about his anti-magic abilities, unless if it's specifically directly tied to his strength and speed and durability, because the reason why I'm saying that is, fused against another magical character, this would be perfect, because Asta has the anti-magic, and this will be a big threat to a lot of other powerfully magical characters in other, fictional worlds. That doesn't mean that he would beat them all automatically, but he would always have more of an advantage and be more of a nuisance to them. But against Deku, who doesn't use magic or have magic, that doesn't really matter. So I get it That's a part of his power set, but he's not against a magical being, so it's no point of wasting explaining, his magical abilities, what his anti-magical abilities do to magic when he's against an opponent who doesn't even use magic anyway. I think that will also be kind of like the determining factor against Asta. Will be like, oh, well, his abilities work against magic, but Deku doesn't use magic. But then again, I don't think that even matters because he's still going to be way more powerful than him. Also, I will be leaving some of the parts in, like the parts that Boomstick made. I think him being a jock and them being nerds comparison was funny as hell, so I'm leaving that part in. But any of the other parts of the details that don't have anything to do or pertain with power itself, I don't care about it.
He's got his classic Demon Slayer, an enormous greatsword which cuts through spells with its edge and deflects them with its flat. Or the Demon Dweller, which can also absorb and copy magic, then toss it right back to sender.
I think my personal favorite is the more complex Demon Destroyer, which severs the relationship between a spell's cause and effect, countering the effects of its magic. This could result in anything from healing a village that was inflicted with poison to preventing reincarnation.
Yeah, okay, some of these can get a little heady. I personally prefer keeping it simple, like using anti-magic telekinesis to surf on your sword through the sky.
It's worth noting that these swords are made specifically for countering magical attacks and sources of mana. The swords will act as though blunted when striking non-magical foes, more akin to giant clubs than actual blades. Not entirely inconsistent with real-life greatswords.
But none of that's even close to as cool as his deadliest sword, the Demon Slasher, a katana as black as the pits of hell and twice as badass.
This one actually does cut like a sword, but it's complicated. It lets Asta actually select what he does and does not want to cut, only affecting his target while leaving anything else unharmed.
Okay, at this point, isn't that just magic?
Magic with a loophole.
And he's studied the blade long enough to become a master swordsman to boot. Not in the real life sense, in the anime sense.
He can spin himself like a tornado to deflect magic spells, thrust forward at top speed like a charging bull, launch a barrage of anti-magic projectiles, and even channel anti-magic into his swords to vastly increase their size.
Well, while he may be no good with mana, he has learned to detect ki. Because, of course,
the life force existing in all things. Asta can detect hidden opponents and even predict their movements ahead of time, as long as he's fast enough to react.
with such crazy powers, Asta was taking on threats like the Eye of the Midnight Sun, the Devil Zagrid, and the Dark Triad. So many nerds, never enough lockers. Too bad for Asta, though. He had one serious inner demon.
Literally, housed within the Five-Leaf Clover Grimoire was Liba, a demon exiled from hell for completely lacking magical powers, and who just so happened to get adopted by Asta's mother.
Until he got possessed by a different demon and killed her. Vowing vengeance on all demonkind, Liba manifested anti-magic from his hatred as a way to kick their asses, which gave him and Asta a lot of common ground, despite the whole, mom murder thing.
In fact, the two became true brothers and formed an unstoppable duo. Liba can actually fully merge with Asta for a massive power boost that lasts up to 5 minutes, at the cost of leaving Asta nearly powerless for the next half hour.
Come on, I want it. Yeah, I'll take it if I get to be strong enough to slice buildings to... Bart, give me the goddamn book!
I'm the book boy, okay? Even characters earlier in the series like Patoli had magic capable of completely vaporizing the entire Clover Kingdom in a single attack. And demons that Asta has fought since then, like Dante and Lucifero, are leagues stronger.
Hell, screw all these demon forms and anti-magic powers. Asta's body is so incredibly well trained, he dodged a beam of light while sleeping. As in, he was asleep, and the force of his sneeze pushed his head out of the way of a beam of light. Light speed sneezes, everyone!
And despite his
Okay, that's the one problem I have with, Death Battle. They take these light speed things too literal. Because there was also in Dragon Ball where we had Goku dodging, General Black's lasers. So we could say he's the fast and light speed. But let's be honest, if it's not consistent with their natural speed or what their speed is shown either through travel or combat speed, then it is not something we should take seriously. I think I will make a video about that in the future where, I'm going to talk specifically about... high-end and low-end feats, because a lot of people, they'd like to take these high-end feats and be like, well, look, they did this, but is it consistent with what they've done throughout their series, or is it just something that the writers wrote in without thinking? Also, since they use magic, the light magic that he's using right here, they said despite being magical, light spells in a Black Clover are fast as natural light. They can reflect the mirrors. Okay, once again, we don't know. They could manipulate, even if it reflects off of a surface, does not mean that it would move at the speed of light still. The ability to reflect off of a surface light does not, change the speed of it or whatever. So that's their argument for, well, even if you say it's magical light, that doesn't mean it doesn't move at the speed of light. Once again, these are not to be taken serious. A lot of times, like him sneezing, moving, that's more for it to be comedic than literal. So unless if you guys have consistent feats that add up to that, then it's most likely just a high-end outlier, or simply just a comedic scene or something like that. And I'll make videos on this because I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to debating, the biggest problem that I see, and the thing that pisses me off the most, is when I see people saying, oh, this character can beat this character, or this character can't beat that character because I'm going to use these most ridiculous feats that are not consistent, or use these ridiculously low feats that make them look weaker that are also not consistent. So we need to go based off of that. They did also with Deku being like light speed and stuff. I don't think these characters are light speed. I would be more akin to, him being light speed, but not in his sleep, just moving around. He could be light speed. But Deku, I would not put him or any of the characters from, My Hero Academia on that level of speed. Because we've seen their speed, they're not that fast. But yeah, that part's weird. I also do want to make a bit of a prediction before I go to the end, before we get to, the fight stuff and I skip all the way to the end. I want to make a big prediction there, but I'm going to just let it play out.
His headstrong and irritating personality,
AKA screaming at the top of his lungs as often as possible.
Asta's an intelligent fighter who has leveraged his skill against far more experienced foes.
But he wouldn't be anywhere without the ragtag band of deviants he calls friends. With them at his side, there's no way he won't climb the ranks to take the Wizard King's throne. Especially with Yuno pushing them both to get stronger.
Unlike other classic shonen rivalries, this one isn't tainted by antagonism. They truly want what's best for each other, even if they're competing for the same throne.
Yuno's gonna need all the luck he can get, cause even if Asta never gets mana of his own, his true magic is never given up.
Okay, right there. I want to make a bit of my prediction because sometimes they do leave a little bit of hints what direction they're going in. I think Deku, for Asta, Deku, the best way I can describe it is Asta has the better stats all around. He's faster than him, stronger than him, more durable than him, has more stamina than him, is more, strategic than him, all these other stuff. But the thing is, Deku has more versatility, and also the fact that since he doesn't use magic, most of Asta's, abilities or, things that he can do with his swords are null and void, so they're useless against him. So they're not going to work. So what's going to happen is, they're going to be quite similar, but, Deku's going to be a little bit weaker than Asta. But then since most of his attacks use magic, it's not going to really affect him so much. And the most he can do with his swords is hit him with a blunt attack, which will do some damage, but not enough to severely hurt him. Now, they did introduce the other sword that he had, the katana, which he can actually cut and slice whatever object he wants. So that's more of a slicing than a blunt force thing. So I think those other swords are going to be kind of useless against him. They're just going to hurt him, but not enough. And then he's going to use the katana for the actual, damage effect, but he might be able to dodge it. And since they added the whole demon form lasting 5 minutes, probably he's going to have to go into that form to handle, Deku. Deku's going to go into using all of his other powers, and he's going to use that demon form. So it's going to be like this. Asta's going to beat the crap out of Deku. Deku is going to still be able to stand because, his attacks usually attack magic, which he doesn't have any. He's going to only hit him with blunt force, it's not going to be enough. And then he's going to be using the actual sword where he can cut him. And now Deku is in the danger zone. He uses all of his other powers. Now he is getting the advantage against Asta because he has all these abilities and stuff, especially the fact that he can, have spidey sense and tell when danger's coming. So he can, dodge the cut, and still, since they're saying he's light speed or whatever, he's going to be dodging it. So then he's going to be beating up Asta. Asta's going to use his demonic form. And they added the whole thing of he loses it, he gets depowered. But I think they're going to be like, well, he got such a significant power boost that even if he does have a short amount of time, like 5 minutes, and get depowered, he would still be too powerful for Deku and overpower him. And they will both have their own senses ability, but Asta's, even though it's worse than Deku's, it's still going to be good enough to beat him. And since he can sense his energy with the key thing, it is going to help him out significantly. So that's the way I see it throughout this fight. So yeah, let's skip to the ending.
Poor Deku. He tried his best, but Asta just shoved him into that great big locker in the sky.
Both Deku and Asta were fairly evenly matched melee fighters without any specific abilities to give one an easy edge over the other. Though, to be fair, the variety of quirks Deku inherited from past users of One For All did make him more versatile and unpredictable.
Plus, quirks are biological mutations, not connected to some supernatural energy source like mana, so Asta's anti-magic powers were basically useless here.
And Deku was generally a smarter and more tactical fighter, but against Asta's incredible might, this time brawn beat brains.
Let's crunch some numbers! Deku's greatest feat of strength was splitting that enormous cloud formation with Bakugo.
By measuring the size of the island and comparing it to the clouds above, we can determine they dispersed over 63 trillion kilograms of water.
That's the weight of the Great Pyramid of Giza! 12,000 of them!
And required an energy of nearly 80 teratons of TNT per punch.
Let's compare that to Asta, but Tony's spell was going to be strong enough to vaporize a country the size of the Clover Kingdom.
We can use this map from the manga to estimate the size of Clover Kingdom to be about 500 kilometers in diameter, about half the length of Great Britain. Vaporizing a country of that size would require an energy of over 480 teratons of TNT, over 6 times greater than Deku's punch.
Okay, first, like I said, it was obvious that, Asta was going to win, and then also they did mention the whole magic thing, like I said, but that was an obvious, that was given. A couple of the other stuff. But once again, this feat that they did, not saying that Asta can't do this, especially if he was able to unlock his full ability, but this feat was specifically from a non-canon movie. I'm pretty sure the movies from My Hero Academia are non-canon because they never get mentioned throughout the anime series and they don't really line up very well. So yeah, I can't really use this one because it's a non-canon one. If I was them, I would have used something from the anime or from the manga itself, but not from the movie. That's kind of dumb. But the one from Black Clover, perfect, because it's really directly from the manga and the show in the beginning. So I just feel like a little weird about using the movie's feat than the series itself.
While Asta uses anti-magic, it isn't an automatic counter. It needs to be comparable in...
Now let's check out these, the pluses and minuses, which I do like this more that they added this in because it is better to showcase, hey, here's the clear-cut differences in, advantages and disadvantages each the opponents have against each other. Also, I did mention the fact that they're going to say Deku's more versatile with his abilities. Obvious, like I said, you can predict it a lot easier this fight. So he said he's more tactical, wider range of powers, slower, cannot safely access max power, and swords, punches, and kicks. True, more tactical, I think. They stated earlier, which is weird, they said Asta has a ton of, tactical fighting stuff. Deku, I wouldn't say he should be super tactical, but he was struggling to beat somebody like, because the people he's struggling to beat aren't really take bunch of strategy to beat. You just have to be more powerful than them. And it took him quite a while to figure out that, hey, maybe stop using my hands, let me use my feet as an ability. And it's gotten to the point where people started making it into a meme, start mocking him like, wow, oh, he's so smart. He went from, hey, let's not punch, let me kick. It took him that long to do that. Swords, yes, even if the sword is just a blunt object, the amount of power you're able to generate with a blunt object, like a blunt sword, compared to a punch or a kick, is significantly higher, and definitely can't access even still now his 100% power without damaging himself. And even if he did, it wouldn't help him out enough. Physically stronger, faster, better ways to predict movement. Like I said, more mobile with fight. Anti-magic would not affect quirks. That is literally the only negative he would have, is he can't affect him with his anti-magic abilities. I want to see him against another being that does use magic. Definitely he would have to be a lot stronger, because if he's around his level of power and that guy using magic, he's done for. But yeah, in every other stats and category, he's just better than Deku. Deku cannot really match with him.
Strength to the spell it's combating, and Asta's gotten way stronger since.
Asta was also quicker. Sure, scaling to Shigaraki would give Deku roughly light speed reaction time,
But Asta could dodge light in his sleep, and that's his base form. even before transforming with Liba to get way faster.
And since Deku and Asta's precognitive abilities more or less matched each other, it was only a matter of time before Asta simply overwhelmed him.
Especially since Deku has struggled in the past against faster opponents. Sure, Deku was smarter, but if he literally didn't have enough time to come up with a plan of attack before getting hammered, his brains were wasted.
Deku's tactical brilliance and harem-scarum tenacity definitely gave his opponent a run for his money, but Asta's raw power, blinding speed, and deadlier weaponry spelled the end for All Might's pupil.
Deku gave it his all, and I wish he had won. Hasta la vista!
The winner is Asta.
So that was it for Death Battle's Deku versus Asta fight. I want to go into a little bit of this stuff, but like I said, these videos do get blocked completely sometimes, so this one I might be deleting. I will probably mention it in my next video. If it does get blocked, I will have to delete it because I've tried to trim it before. It takes hours to trim even a couple of seconds off. And even when I do it heavily, it's still, blocked. So I'll probably just delete it if that's the case. Hopefully not, because I really like this one. I thought it was interesting, and I'm definitely excited for the next one that's coming up. So yeah, but I will get into that a little bit later. Let's talk about the fight itself, just assuming that, this video doesn't get blocked, okay? Hopefully it doesn't. Especially the next one, because I really want to check out the next one. But yeah, it was pretty obvious that Asta was going to beat Deku. He just had all the cards lined up for him, everything perfectly. The only thing that Deku had in his favor was the fact that Asta's abilities were mostly akin to, handling people with magic, which he doesn't have. But that doesn't change the fact that he was still stronger than him, faster than him, more durable than him, had all these other abilities still on top of it to handle somebody like Deku. The only thing Deku really had going for him was all these other abilities, which most of them are not even that, useful against somebody like, Asta, or just in general. But the one thing I do want to talk about is the light speed thing. Like I said, one of the big problem I see with Death Battle is they kind of over-exaggerate a lot of these characters' like feats and abilities. They take scenes and stuff that people will be like, well, if it was in the thing, then why not? Because there's a thing called an outlier, and when you have an outlier, it basically means even if it was shown, that means that if it's not consistent or gets contradicted by a future event or a past event, then you cannot take it seriously. For example, people keep on saying that Master Roshi blowing up the moon was an outlier. It doesn't count because when you go later on, you have Demon King Piccolo and he's only shown to destroy a city. So how can he be moon level when he's only city level? So they're like, that doesn't count. So if you can use it for that, you can definitely use it for these guys. Asta's one, he was sleeping. That was more like probably a joke, saying he can dodge light in his sleep. That's just ridiculous. Unless there's other consistencies where he can. I'm not saying that he can't dodge light in general, but to be able to move so fast in his base form, he can dodge light in his speed is quite ridiculous. And Deku with the whole Shigaraki catching a laser thing, we don't know if that was an actual just laser, because we know a lot of times in fiction when they use these, energy projection weapons, they don't always move at light like in Star Wars. We see them shooting with like light weapons, like guns, and they're dodging them or moving around, and they're not moving at light speed. Even regular humans are doing it. So sometimes it matters about the logic of the series and the writing in it, but also the consistency. Unless if we're seeing Shigaraki and Deku consistently dodging light, which I highly doubt any of the characters are light speed in in travel or combat in My Hero. But I'm definitely excited for Vegeta versus Gogeta. The only thing that's hard about that is for Vegeta and Gogeta, though they have similar, the way they're made is similar and they have similar abilities, the big problem with that is I just hope that they take into consideration the fact that the Gogeta they're going to be using is going to be from Broly, because the last time we saw him, or the first time we actually saw him in the main canon, was in the Broly film, whereas Vegeta, the last time we saw him was all the way back in the Goku Black arc, which Goku and Vegeta from the Goku Black arc to the Tournament of Power had got significantly more powerful in their base form, meaning their other Super Saiyan forms got even more powerful. So combining when they fused, when they got Gogeta, their bases were stronger and their other super forms were also stronger, so making Gogeta's Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan Blue form and his base form a lot more powerful. Whereas Vegeta, they were far weaker. So I think it's going to be hard to do that because it's going to take a lot of assumptions with the calculations, because Vegeta's going to be in a disadvantage due to the fact that the time they fused when they did Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, they're significantly weaker. So it's not like Gogeta is just stronger. It's just that at the time they did that, they were a lot more powerful at that time. So for Vegito on his side to match up to Gogeta, they will need to make a lot of assumptions like, oh, maybe he got this much more powerful, or did this and that. Also, the multipliers from the fusion itself is going to be a deciding factor, which is, simply the best thing to do. But the power up, how are they going to, because it's not fair to use that, like I said, logically speaking, Gogeta is just a fusion of them being when they were stronger. So how are they going to make Vegito handle him? They'll need to make a lot of assumptions with his power boost. But I do think Gogeta is going to win for the main reason of, one, he's far more serious than Vegito. He fights more seriously. He has better move sets, and he would go for the kill more. He will be like, if they get into the fight, it's going to be a lot of them being evenly matched, but having Gogeta edging it out by being more serious, being more strategic, and having more deadlier moves. So he's going to be going more in for the kill and using more versatile moves to handle him, and possibly being a little bit stronger than him or whatever. But yeah, that's gonna be a wild one. I can't wait to see that. I'm excited for that. Hopefully they don't block my video for that one. But also, they're gonna have to do a lot of hopefully they don't just put their stats in from what happened, because there's gonna be a lot of problem there. But they're gonna have to make a lot of assumptions for Vegito's power boost. Also, I want to see if they're gonna use from the current time or just from, like, say, Broly film. Like, let's say just use Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta from Broly film, and then say how strong, how good would Super Saiyan Blue Vegito handle Broly in that film, or his Super Saiyan form. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.